Guess who's back, Mindsetters? Yes, I know, I haven't been here for quite a while, but not to worry, I have my trusty sidekick Aslam with me, and today on our Learn Extra live shows, I'm pretty sure that I might be a bit rusty, but I'm pretty sure that we can get through this together. So Aslam, tell us what we're doing today, please.
Megan, welcome back, welcome back. You're not rusty, you're Megan, by the way, eh?
Oh yeah, thanks Aslam.
Well, Megan, where have you been all this time?
I went to London and Paris.
Oh, Paris?
Yeah.
Don't tell my daughter that. Eh?
No, I'll try not to.
That's not a good thing.
But the weather was okay.
Good weather?
And you? What are we doing today?
Okay.
I can't say the word, apparently. It's circulatory system.
Well, today we're looking at the circulatory system, Megan.
See, I say it American,
Circulatory
apparently.
system.
I say it like an American. So, please correct me, Azam. What am I saying wrong?
Right, so we're saying circulatory.
Circulatory system.
Yeah, South Africans.
I've been away for too long.
Good.
Okay, so Mindsetters, I know I haven't been here for a while. As you can see, the show, I haven't been here, so I've actually missed a lot because now we're sitting differently and Aslam's there, so I'm looking right at him. So I just want to tell you, in case you don't know already, we are on the Facebook page. Well, I'm going to be talking to you now at facebook.com/learnextra, or on Twitter, which is @learnextra. Or if you want to be really, really, really smart, you sit in front of the TV with your notes printed, and you can get them at www.mindset.co.za/learn-extra. And then you have all the notes with you that Aslam's going to go through now, and then you seem so smart and you actually know what's going on. So I'll hand over to Aslam because you guys are probably sick and tired of me talking. And then after that, we'll just go through this whole blood system that we're going through now. So Aslam, please. Take us away.
Nice move there with the blood system. That's a nice move, Megan. Good. Welcome, Mindsetters. Grade 10s, don't be too surprised. It's not Yugen has grown a grey beard. This is Aslam here. Totally different person. So bear with me. And let's see how we can go through this. We are talking, actually, Megan, I should have told you to say it this way. We are talking about matters close to the heart. That would you have said better, eh, Megan?
No, you killed it there.
Yeah, there
Nailed
we go.
it.
What are we looking at in this lesson? What are we looking at? We want to look at the following. The need for a transport system. In other words, why do we need a transport system in our body? We want to discuss the difference between an open blood system and a closed blood system. We also want to identify the various blood vessels that are found not only on the heart, but throughout the body. We then want to identify them, and we want to describe the structures and the functions of arteries, veins, and capillaries. Finally, for today, we want to describe the structure of the heart and associated blood vessels. We also want to name those blood vessels, and we want to talk about their functions. So that's quite a lot of work we have to do, so let's get right into it.
Are you going to teach me about all the blood things, Aslam?
All the blood things today.
All the things that go through me all the time.
And not the things that break your heart.
No.
The ones that make your heart
Okay, cool.
beat faster. Okay, why do we need a transport system was our first question, right? So let's look at it. There is obviously a need to pick up, and we put this deliberately in very simple language just to get the mood flowing. We will talk a more formal language after that. There is a need to pick up and deliver the supplies and waste around the body. In your language now, we've given it to you. Now let's adjust that language to a more formal exam type of answer. Why is there a need for a transport system? The body needs to transport substances like food throughout the body, all over, and it needs to retrieve waste products and get rid of them from the body as well. So therefore, there must be some way in which these molecules or substances can get along. If you want to get from your house to the university, from your house to the school, etc., if it's close by, you're going to walk. If it is further away, your mom's going to take you, or you're going to take a taxi and so on. So you need a transport system the same way that applies here. These substances need to go. I mean, look at my size. From my head right down to the toes. All over here, we have cells. And these cells need food. And these cells manufacture waste. And these things need to be transported. That's the story there. Now, talking about the need in our body for a transport system, what about an organism like the hydra? Hydra, we would write like this, and we would underline it because it's a genetic name, hydra, belonging to the coelentrates. Why does an organism like a hydra not need a transport system? First, I have to tell you that the hydra, you and I cannot see with the naked eye. This is many thousand times magnified. In fact, if you see the hydra in water, it would probably look like that. I'm hoping you can see the green in that circle. Hydra in the water would look like that. That's all you'd be able to see. So that already gives you a clue, isn't it? It gives you the clue that this organism is very small. And let's look at it closer. The fact that it's small is one thing. It has only 2 body layers. So anything that needs to go through is easy because it will go by simple diffusion. It will go through by simple diffusion. And likewise, when it wants to go out, the same thing can happen. So this organism does not need a blood system. It does not need a transport system. The same with the jellyfish here. The body parts are so close to each other, the body layers rather, are so close to each other that every transport mechanism that can take place via diffusion. Now humans and other mammals have a closed blood system. Or, let me also not dodge the word circulatory system. This means, what does this mean? This means that the blood is pumped through a system of vessels. Take it further. It's pumped from the heart to the vessels and the blood, and it comes back to the heart. Let me draw a diagram of a heart that you would identify with. Good. Now, this is what we're saying there. That the blood is pumped from the heart in an artery. Artery branches to form arterioles. Arterioles branch to form capillaries. Capillaries unite to form venules. Venules unite to form a vein, and these return the blood to the heart. So at no stage has the blood left the blood vessels or the blood system. The cells are not bathed in blood. We'll learn later in this chapter what surrounds the cells. So as blood moves through the circulatory system, it moves through 3 types of blood vessels. We've mentioned them in that flow diagram just now. And these are the 3 main types. The first one being arteries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. A for artery, A for away. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. All arteries carry blood away from the heart. All veins carry blood back to the heart. And capillaries, on the other hand, which are located between the arteries and the veins, reach those areas where the arteries and veins cannot reach. In other words, they are much smaller than the arteries and the veins. So let's picture the system now, the heart. From the heart coming out arteries, arteries going to all parts of the body, becoming arterioles, the arterioles becoming capillaries, and the capillaries uniting to form venules, the venules becoming veins, the veins coming back into the heart. So that is how the circulation continues there in this diagram that we spoke about. Now, if we look at the artery and the vein, if we compare them, we'll find that both have an outer layer of connective tissue. Below that is a layer of muscle there and there. And in this particular diagram, can you see the difference in the layer that is labeled the muscle layer in the artery and the vein? Yes? Yes, you do. In this one here, that is the diameter. And in this one, that is the diameter. So already you can see that the diameter here is greater than the diameter there of the muscle layer. And because of that, the lumen is greater here. The lumen, the inner layer inside, the lumen is greater. In this particular diagram, we're not going to talk about the inner endothelial layer. We'll talk about that in the next diagram. Now, if we take a cross-section of these arteries, veins, and capillaries, this is what we would see. There's your outer layer. Remember, that was connective tissue. Fibrous connective tissue, if you want to be more specific. Then followed by the muscle layer. Now, this diagram shows you clearly the thickness of the muscle layer here as opposed to there. Further, we have this layer on the inside called the endothelial layer. This layer, the endothelial layer. Okay? The endothelial layer is the innermost layer of a blood vessel, which is made up of a single layer of cells. And these cells you've learnt about before, squamous epithelial cells. The squamous epithelial cells, you learned from your studies that they are thin, flat cells. That already tells you the structure of this thing. Now look at the capillary on the other hand. The capillary is only made up of the single endothelial layer. There we go, around there. And there's the nucleus of that endothelial cell there. So can you see how small the capillary is compared to the artery and the vein? You need to know that, and you need to then transfer that into terms of how they function and their suitability. Now look at a micrograph showing you an artery in this area and a vein in this area. Notice the muscular layer here. Look at the muscular layer here. Look at the muscular layer there. Also, look at the lumen here. Look at the lumen here. Much larger lumen in veins. And if we go back, veins also have something else that arteries don't have, and that is the structure here called a valve. The purpose of the valve in a vein, because the vein is not under pressure. Remember, the artery, blood is being pumped from the heart. So therefore, it's under pressure from the heart. This pump is pumping all the time. Whereas the vein, nothing is pumping it to get back to the heart. So there's less pressure there. Now what can happen? If that's the problem, now think about the fact that we have cells in our legs. Now we're standing like this, and this blood must come up all the way back to the heart. And there's nothing pumping it up that way. Or rather, it's not under so much pressure as the artery is. So now what can happen? The blood can fall back, right down back, and all blood can collect in your legs at the bottom. Now we don't want that situation, do we? Not at all. We want the blood to come back to our heart so that it can go through the cycle again, and we can recirculate this blood all the time. So what we have valves in the veins to prevent backflow of blood. So in other words, even if the pressure is not high and the blood decides to fall backwards, the valve will prevent the backflow of the blood in that part. Good. So the first question we ask, based on what we've taught you something now, immediately we're asking you the question. We're not leaving it to the end. We want to ask you the questions now while it is still fresh in your mind. The question talks about tabulating the structural and functional differences between the arteries and the veins. So I leave you with that thought for your ad break. As soon as you get back, I'm sure you will have your own table ready.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Aslam. Guys, get posting on the page, get asking me questions. I see that you want the fast link. I've just posted it. And when we come back, I have something to discuss with you. So I'll let that sit in your mind. So see you after the ad break. Welcome back, grade 10. So remember I told you that just before the ad break I had something to share with you. So first I wanted to ask Aslan if he knew what tomorrow was. So do you know what tomorrow is? On the 18th of July?
Tomorrow is Thursday.
No. Tell me what tomorrow is. I know you know.
Tomorrow is Thursday, Megan.
No, but what's on tomorrow?
Oh, what's on? What's so significant?
Like
See,
what is actually happening?
Once you get to where I am in terms of teaching, then you have to be
then
very
you have to be specific
about your question.
That's what you guys should be like, specific. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Well, that's what examiners
What's
want.
so important about tomorrow?
Yes, please tell me.
Tomorrow is one of
Yes.
the greatest men that has
Yes.
seen, one of the greatest men that has seen the face of this earth, in this country especially, his birthday.
Can you guys tell me who that is? Post on the page right now, but I'll wait until just before the next ad break to tell you who that is. And if you don't know who that is, please go look on our Facebook page and that gives you a hint. So before I carry on speaking about this fantastic man, don't forget it's facebook.com/learnextra. And Aslam, carry on with our beautiful lesson on blood.
Thank you, Megan, for keeping those juices flowing.
Oh, yes.
Good. Guys, I told you to think about something before the break, the differences between the arteries, the veins and capillaries. But notice this question talking about specific. Look at what it's talking about, the structural and functional differences between these three guys, arteries, veins and capillaries. Now remember, when it says tabulate, you must draw a table, and we've already started with a table there, arteries, capillaries and veins. And what we're going to do is going to look at one thing at a time. First of all, arteries carry blood away from the heart. Capillaries supply blood at tissue level, and veins supply blood back to the heart, as we've mentioned earlier. Secondly, in terms of the structure now, the arteries have a thick middle layer of involuntary muscles. Whereas the veins have a thin muscle layer. And the capillaries, as we showed you in a diagram, they don't have a middle layer. They have a single layer of endothelium tissue. The arteries have a narrow inner layer of endothelium which reduces friction. Capillaries, they only have this endothelium, that's the only thing they have. And the veins have a larger diameter of the inner cavity lined with endothelium to reduce the friction. We're talking about the whole, the lumen itself and the inner layer there, okay? Arteries are situated deeper in the tissue to maintain body temperature. We don't want to lose the heat from the arteries. All right. All right, we'll come back to you. The veins are situated nearer the surface of the skin, so we can release some of the heat when it's coming back from the body, because it's a lot of there's a lot of heat that it picks up from the body. So it must need to lose some of that heat. And the capillaries are found, if this guy opens now, doesn't want to. Okay, there we go. It's only found in the tissue level. It's not found elsewhere. In terms of the arteries, they do not have valve except the aorta and the pulmonary artery. These are the only two that have valves, and we'll talk about the valves a little later. The veins, we've told you already, they have mainly semilunar valves, and they are at regular intervals of the veins to prevent backflow of blood. And there's no valves present at all in a capillary. There wouldn't be a need for them. Blood is always under high pressure in an artery. If you have to cut an artery, the blood that comes out of there will spurt out, it will shoot out, because the blood in the artery is under pressure. Whereas in a vein, the blood is under low pressure because it's returning. It's far away from the pumping action of the heart. And the capillaries, the blood is under high pressure, where red blood cells are forced to flow through in single file. Why this is important? Because we need to push this blood through. And at the same time, we will talk about, when we talk about the lymphatic system, why this pressure in the capillaries is important. If we feel an artery, we will be able to feel a pulse as the blood flows. No pulse in the capillary, and no pulse can be detected very easily in a vein as well. Have we got any questions on that side, Megan?
Yes, I'll tell you them in 2 seconds. Just carry on.
Now, we've covered the heart of the blood vessels. These are the types of, these are the broad. Remember, we haven't named specific blood vessels. We've simply given you the outline of the types of blood vessels we can have. Arteries, veins, and capillaries. Remember, in between we mentioned arterioles. Arterioles are simply branches of the artery, and venules are branches that lead to a vein. Okay? Now, we're moving towards the heart itself. Matters of the heart, as I said earlier.
Before you start, can I read you a question?
Yes, dear.
Tommy says, can I please have the function of an elastic layer in the arteries?
An elastic layer in the arteries would be to allow the artery to stretch for blood to flow through easily.
Well done, Mr. Aslam.
Okay. Now we're looking at the heart itself. And where is this heart situated? That's the first thing we have to talk about. Position of the heart. Now, if you're standing or sitting, that matter, doesn't matter, your heart position won't change. The heart is situated more or less in the middle. Textbooks will tell you the heart is found in the mediastinum. That's roughly in the midline of the body. But you'll notice that the bottom of the heart is pointed slightly to the left. Now, you must be very careful when you are looking at a diagram of the heart, because the diagram you're looking in the paper is the opposite to you. In other words, it's a mirror image. And you know when you stand in a mirror, your left is your right, the right is... Well, you can't stand in the mirror, obviously, Megan. You stand in front of the mirror.
That would be a problem, yes.
That would be a serious problem. Then we would have to say mirror, mirror on the wall, right?
Hey, we don't want at least you know your story little fairy tales. I'm quite impressed.
We don't want to get involved there. Now, if you stand in front of the mirror, you know that the mirror reflection is the opposite to your actual position. So when you're looking at the diagram, take the paper itself and put it in front of you this way, facing forward. Then you will know which is left and right and so on, and you can identify that properly in a diagram. Okay? So that's where the heart is positioned. Remember, the rib cage offers some protection to the heart, and the bone that is found in the middle of the rib cage here, sorry, the diagram is moving, the sternum. The sternum also gives you protection. It covers the heart in that area there. Good? And obviously there'll be a lot of fat that is deposited around the heart. Let's look at the external structure of the heart now. If we look at the heart from outside, this is more or less what we would be able to see. We do not need a microscope to see this. We would be able to see it. If we cut an animal and we remove the heart, we would be able to see this exactly. And stay tuned, next week we would be seeing that live here. Megan, make sure you're here.
When? For the
Next
external
week,
heart.
Wednesday.
Can you tell me what heart it's going to be though?
Sheep heart.
Sheep.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen that, so
Okay, so
I'll
we're going
be
to look
here.
at the sheep heart. Okay, so on the outside of the heart, you can see it's a more or less a triangular structure made up mainly of muscle. This muscle is called cardiac muscle. Up. Okay. From the outside, we can also see that the heart is divided. We can't see much on this particular diagram. Yes, we can. We can see that the heart has upper chambers there and lower chambers there and there. So I'll number them for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. No particular order, just to show you those different areas there. So on the upper end we have the atria, and the lower end we have the ventricles. And notice they talk of the left ventricle and the right ventricle. So not only is the heart divided into upper and lower, it's also divided into left and right. Good? Good. Let's draw your type of heart now, Megan.
Aww.
One you'd like to get from
the one that all the
boys.
girls draw.
They always draw all the time, eh?
We like it.
Okay.
So
now,
how did people get from that to that? Is the
Megan,
explanation, not just
that's for another day.
another day?
that's for
Okay,
another
we'll have
totally
a
another
nice
It'll
conversation.
be another
Okay.
conversation. Once we're done here, we sit outside and we talk about it.
Okay.
All right. So if we take this now, let's take this as a diagram. And I'm just going to draw over this in another color just to get an idea across. This is what we are saying. That the heart has left and right, or rather, in this case, left and right, and upper and lower. The lower chambers are called ventricles. The upper chambers are called atrium. One atrium, more atria. Do not confuse atrium, atria with artery. The artery is a blood vessel. Atrium is a chamber in the heart. Okay? Notice also very clear in this particular diagram are some blood vessels. In this particular case, you can see pulmonary veins. You can see pulmonary arteries. You can see the aorta, there. And we can see the superior and inferior vena cava there and coming in there. The inferior, superior, they both enter the right atrium, as you can see. You can also see that there are some red and blue lines on the heart muscle itself. These are known as coronary arteries, the red ones, and coronary veins, the blue ones. Also, you can see clearly on this diagram the fat tissue that I was talking about here. This is on the heart muscle, on the heart itself. But around the heart, there's a lot of fat as well. You sit and think about it. Why is it there? We'll talk about that later when it's necessary. We then move to the internal structure of the heart. If we cut the heart open, this is what it looks like. There you can see the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the right atrium, the left atrium. You see the thick muscular wall that divides left and right. That thick muscular wall is called the septum. Now there must be something that separates the atria from the ventricles as well. Between the right atrium and the right ventricle, we get the tricuspid valve. So to remember, RST, on the right side we have the tricuspid valve. Okay? On the left hand side, between the left atrium and the left ventricle, we have the mitral valve, or we call it the bicuspid valve. So little boy, on the left hand side, we have the bicuspid valves. Bicuspids have 3 cusps and the tricuspids have 3 cusps. That's how they get their name. This wall is very thick, as you can see there. You can also see that at the base of the pulmonary artery, there's a valve there, pulmonic valve or semilunar valves there. And they're not showing, yes, they are. In the base of the aorta, we also have the aortic valve or the semilunar valves there as well. Inferior vena cava, superior vena cava there on top. And the pulmonary arteries, the aorta, and the pulmonary veins are not shown in this diagram. That is the internal structure very basically, and we're going to look at much more of the internal structure when we cut the heart open next week. With that, hand you over to Megan.
I'm so proud of you, Mindsetters. You guys all got it right. Yes, tomorrow is officially and internationally recognized as Nelson Mandela Day. And to me, he is actually the most special person because he was president when I was born. So I was part of the born-free generation, if you could say that. So we'll come back right after this ad break and then we can talk more about Nelson. Enjoy! Welcome back, grade 10. So in our little ad break, my director said, ha ha, Nelson. So I'm going to call him Madiba, because we all know that's who it is, actually, right? Yes. So anyway, tomorrow is officially recognized as Nelson Mandela Day. So I hope for 67 minutes you do something good, even if it's, I don't know, picking up a piece of paper, throwing it in the bin, anything. That's all that tomorrow is about doing good things for people and helping one another and coming together as a nation. So check it out on the website. It is posted on the official Mindset page. There's another page for Nelson Mandela Day. So please, please, please go check it out. And I'm so proud of all of you because you all got it right. And I love you guys to bits and pieces. So I'm going to leave you with blood and heart. And that's Aslam's department.
Wow, what a gory picture you paint after such a nice...
I know, but...
blood and
hey, how it is, it's the truth.
what are you making me to be out? Don't do that to me, Megan.
No.
Well, Mindsetters, don't forget what Megan said. Do something good and let that be something sustainable throughout your life. Try and do something good. Remember, that's the legacy of the man. The legacy of the man is what he left behind, what he is leaving for us forever in our hearts. That throughout whatever happened, he stayed firm and forgiving, reconciliatory, and a good man. So keep that in your mind and do something tomorrow, yes, but try to do that all the time. Your neighbor, the welfare organization in your area, whatever it is, do something tomorrow and make tomorrow be the start of your direction in this way of this leader that we are talking about. Right, we gave you some teaching, now we come to some questions. Before we go to questions, Megan, your side?
Yes, okay. There's actually quite a cool one. Sheriff says, do they do anything like heart transplants? But I know they do.
Yes, they do. Heart transplant, the first one was done in South Africa. And
yes,
we'll be talking
in
lots
Cape
about
Town.
that next week. Cape Town.
Yes, that's the only thing I know.
All right.
The first heart surgery. And then Leba asks, what are the arteries and what is the function? The I can't say the word.
Bronchial artery.
That one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about bronchial artery when we get more specific. The artery, we know the artery is a blood vessel that transports blood away from the heart. That's a specific name of a particular artery that's involved in circulation. We talk about that when we get there.
Okay, then Daniel asks, does the heart have a thick muscle?
The heart itself
is a thick muscle.
The heart itself is made up of cardiac muscle, and I suppose you have said that earlier. It's good that Daniel actually asked that question.
Thank you, Daniel.
Because Daniel, you've actually helped us to talk about something about the heart muscle. We will be talking about it later, but I needed to explain as well. The heart has cardiac muscle. By the way, if you've done the muscle system by now, you would know that you have skeletal muscle, you have smooth muscle, and you have cardiac muscle. These are the three types of muscles we have in our body. The heart is surrounded with cardiac muscle. Obviously, cardiac and the heart go together. This cardiac muscle has one unique property. This property is the property of automatism, meaning that it can contract and relax without a nerve supply. That means the nerves don't control the fact that the heart can beat. What the nerves do control is how fast and how slow the heart can beat. But the fact that the heart muscle can contract and relax can happen outside your body. If we remove the heart from your body, keep it in a proper temperature, proper nutritious solution, the heart will continue beating without any nerves to it. It's automatism that we need to talk about. Anything else?
And a few finally says, Aslam, could you please explain double circulatory system involving pulmonary and systematic or systematic
What's the name
circuit?
of the person?
A few
A few. Why are you punishing my poor Megan with this horrible word?
I can't say half
circulate
these
thing?
words.
Don't do this to her.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't
She's
take biology.
born free,
I'm so
like she
sorry.
told you.
sorry.
She's come the born-free generation, so they can't say
I
circulatory.
can't even say circulatory.
Okay.
Circulatory. Damn
I
it.
feel where that particular question would be addressed next week when we talk about circulation. We are going into the systemic circulation and into the pulmonary circulation next week, and we would then cover those things in that particular lesson. Any more, mate?
Nope, you
There
can
we
carry
go.
on.
So guys, we're not keeping you away from any answers as such. We're taking your questions so that we can move on with what we are doing. Now, we've given you the diagram of the external structure, the diagram of the internal structure. Now, we're looking at this and we're saying, let's make it a question. Label the following diagram. Level 1. Remember, when you have any structure that you have to learn, the first thing people are going to ask you to do is to label the diagram. Next, they will ask you is functions of different parts. Then they want to take it at a higher level. They talk about significance of this and that. Why is this different to that, and so on. And later, they want to take it even higher than that. They'll say, predict what would happen if this is removed or that is removed, and so on. What are they really testing when they say predict? They're simply testing you the function of that part, because if it's not there, then that function will not take place. So let's label this diagram. You must look at the arrows when you are labeling the diagram. Let's look at the easy ones first. Remember, you've got to look at this diagram this way, so that will be the left-hand side, and this would be the right-hand side. So let's see what color will work best. Let's see the green. Green, good enough? Yeah, good. So this is the right-hand side. So that will be right, right. That will be left, left. What's on the top? Atria. Right atrium, left atrium. What's at the bottom? Ventricles. Right ventricle, left ventricle. We can actually, why am I doing that and punishing you? Right, this is why we put these blocks here, atrium, and this would become, now let's see where we're pointing now. Difficult to say, all right, this one here would become the right ventricle. This would be the left atrium, and that would be the left ventricle. Good. So that's the most important parts. Right, now, what about this guy in the middle? That is called the septum. That separates right from left. Now let's take left. We'll go from the top now down, okay? So this one here, you can see the blood is coming into the right atrium and it's coming from the top. So this will be the superior vena cava. And then we come in here. This is this area here. That will be the valve. It's pointing to the valve. And because on the right-hand side, RST, we have the tricuspid valve. I'm just putting V for short now. And then we go this way. This guy is pointing to this valve here, or this valve here. That is the semilunar valves. And then we're moving further. This one is pointing to these valves here, left and left. Little boy, bicuspid. Remember, another word for bicuspid is mitral. This here would be the muscle wall. Going up, these are blood vessels that are entering the left atrium. That would be the pulmonary veins. And this one here is going from the right-hand side going out. So that will be the pulmonary artery. And this big one here is the aorta. In fact, this particular part is called the aortic arc. And that is the labels on the diagram. You need to know the labels. And you need to, how do we know what's the difference between the aorta and the pulmonary artery? Because they're looking very similar here. That's why I told you, we looked at it. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the right-hand side. So that's the pulmonary artery. This one here, follow it, follow. It's coming from the left ventricle. So that's the aorta. The aorta leaves the left ventricle. The pulmonary artery leaves the right ventricle. The pulmonary arteries come into the left atrium, and the superior and inferior vena cava, this one here, they enter the right atrium. So not only you need to know the names of the vessels, you must know where they're going to or where they're coming from. That is how you're going to distinguish between the different vessels. Provide the functions of the major blood vessels shown in this diagram. We need to talk about the functions. And we'll start with the vena cava. Their job is to return deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body to the right atrium. So the superior vena cava deals with the upper limbs, the hands, and the upper body. And the inferior vena cava deals with the remainder, the lower parts of the body, lower extremities. So all the deoxygenated blood, all the deoxygenated blood in the body is brought back to the heart. Where to? To the right atrium via the vena cava. The aorta, it transports oxygenated blood from the heart to all parts of the body. Pulmonary artery transports deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. By the way, pulmonary artery is the only artery in the body that transports deoxygenated blood. All other arteries transport oxygenated blood. The pulmonary veins transports oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart, returning the blood from the lung to the heart. Now, just as I told you about the pulmonary artery, the pulmonary vein is the only veins, or are the only veins, that transport oxygenated blood. All other veins in the body transport deoxygenated blood. So those are the main blood vessels as we have named them. Now they say provide the name and functions of two other important blood vessels not shown in this diagram. There would have to be the coronary vessels, the coronary artery, which supplies the heart muscle, that should be heart, heart muscle and tissue with oxygenated blood. We saw this when we saw the diagram of the external structure of the heart. And the coronary veins, we saw this also there, returns deoxygenated blood from the heart muscle to the right atrium. And this diagram shows you these vessels that I'm talking about. Why are you misbehaving? Good. There you go. Clearly on this diagram, we can see the blood vessels. The blue, the blue and the red. The blue would be coronary veins, the red would be coronary arteries. Remember, the heart muscle is also made up of living cells and tissues. So itself needs to be nourished to get food. So it must get the oxygenated blood from the heart. And itself produces waste. That waste must get back to the heart. From the heart, it must get transported to where it must be removed. Name and explain the significance of the valves found. Number one, between the right atrium and the right ventricle. RST, tricuspid valve. There we go. Tricuspid valve. At least I'm getting my answers right. Why are we playing with me today with these colors? Tricuspid valve. What's its job? What's its function? It prevents backflow of blood from the right ventricle to the right atrium. In other words, it allows blood to flow from atrium to ventricle, but it doesn't let blood go back up. The next one says between the left atrium and the left ventricle, that will be the bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Left little boy prevents backflow of blood from the left ventricle to the left atrium. The valves in the pulmonary artery are called semilunar valves, and their job is to prevent backflow of blood from the pulmonary artery to the right ventricle. And lastly, in the aorta, it's also semilunar valves, by the way. It's also semilunar valves, and they prevent backflow of blood from the aorta to the left ventricle. So mainly, it's about backflow. You need to know where it is, and it won't allow backflow between where it is and where it's going to. That's what we are saying. Very simple. Next question says, explain how the heart is protected. And I gave you lots of clues as we built up the lesson. And that's very easy. First of all, there we go. Fat tissue that is around the heart. Remember, the word said explain. It didn't say list ways in which the heart is protected. Then we would only say what is in bold. But this question said explain. So you need to elaborate on what you're saying. So you're saying fat tissue around the heart. Why? It acts as a shock absorber. So explanation. Next one says the rib cage and sternum, they are made up of bone to protect the delicate heart from any physical damage. Further, the heart itself is surrounded by a membrane called the pericardium. It's a membrane which covers and protects the heart. It reduces friction as well when the heart beats. Question 3. Study the diagrammatic representation below showing a transverse section through a vein and an artery. So you have a vein and an artery. The first question says, which diagram, A or B, represents an artery? And the answer there would be A. Why do I say A? Simple. Because there is a thicker muscle layer in A than there is in B. And we're talking about layer 2. And we can also talk about a smaller lumen than there. And that is label 3 there in that thing there. Which blood vessel, A or B, has valves? Which one has valves? The answer has to be B. And why? Because to prevent backflow of blood, right? Now provide labels for parts numbered 1, 2, and 3. I'll do it on the diagram and then we'll open it up there. Number 3 we already spoke about, lumen. This one here we're talking about the muscle layer. Want to be more specific, we say smooth muscle. Okay, and number 1 would be the connective tissue. All right, and that covers us with that question there. Let's just open to see if Aslam was right. Connective tissue, smooth muscle, and lumen. On the button we are in terms of our answers. I'm hoping that helps you. The last question says, explain how the heart is suited for functions. I'm just going to open that up for you. And we spoke about all this already. Cardiac muscle has automatism, so the heart can beat without any nerves. It is richly supplied with blood vessels so that it can nourish itself. There's valves between the atria and ventricles. And it has a thick septum to separate left from right in terms of that. I'm hoping, guys, that this helps you to progress in what you are doing in your work. With that, I would reluctantly hand you over to my main man.
Man.
There you go.
Woman.
Woman. Megan.
It's okay. Well, great sins, it is coming to the end of our show today, and I'm so sorry, but I have to say goodbye. But it has been a pleasure having you guys. You guys have been fantastic, telling me that it's Nelson Mandela Day tomorrow, talking about hearts, talking about your vessels and arteries, saying words that I didn't know I had. But don't forget, there's all the links on the Facebook page, facebook.com/learn extra, or get the notes at mindset.ca.za/learn extra. So I'm so happy to be back, and hopefully I'll be seeing you next week for the sheep heart. Goodbye.